Jasmine says, "Hi, Austin and Robert. I'm Jasmine. Thank you so much for doing what you do. I really appreciate it. I have a question specifically for Austin. If you don't mind sharing, can you talk about how you went from making $70,000 a year out of college to becoming a millionaire in just 5 years? I'm making $80,000 a year at 24 right now as a software engineer. I have around $18,000 in my emergency fund, $10,000 in my Roth IRA, $3,000 in my brokerage account, and $1,000 in cryptocurrency. I'd really appreciate any advice and a play-by-play explanation of how you've been able to achieve such an impressive milestone." Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate the question. And I think, we just talked about how transparency is key. I am a open book. So how I went from making $70,000 a year as a analyst at a healthcare company, essentially, to, I think my income last year, my tax return was just shy of like 700,000. And this year it's probably going to be 8, 9, a million if I'm lucky. But my net worth, right, my assets minus my debt is over $1 million. Therefore, I am a millionaire. The key to that was increasing my income, right? I was able to work from like 8 or 9 p.m. at night till about 2 a.m. on a side hustle, which was TikTok. It was a newsletter. It was live streams. It was a lot of consulting. It was a lot of things from like 2020 to about 2022 that kicked my butt. I eventually quit my job mid 2021 so I could go all in on being an entrepreneur like this, but I didn't quit my job until I was making much more through my side hustle than I was with my normal job as an analyst. So any piece of advice I could give is like, one, document the process. The biggest hack right now is having a voice online. If that's on LinkedIn, if that's a newsletter, if that's on X, if that's on Instagram or TikTok or wherever else. If you have an audience, that audience is more valuable than you could ever imagine. So that's the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is to double down on what you're really, really good at. And if you do that, and you do it on something that makes you really happy, it won't feel like work. So working from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., analyzing earnings calls and hosting live streams on the weekend because during the week I was actually still at my job, like that didn't feel like work. That was awesome. I love talking about that stuff. And so if you're doing something that you really love, it's not going to feel like work at all. And then finally, surround yourself with people who really bowed to your weaknesses, right? I found a co-founder within the first couple months of like starting this like little business in the beginning, and he's way more organized than me. I'm not a very organized person. He's just very great. His name's Christian. He's the executive producer of the show as well. Robert knows him very well too. He's in the Rich Habits Network and everything. Like Christian is a rock star. And I would attribute a lot of the success that I've had over the last several years to Christian being my partner. So maybe find someone in your network that could help you build and turn something into something magical so that your income can increase so much. Once you're now making 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you pay your taxes, which sucks. But then after you pay those taxes, you invest the money. You put it in the S&P 500, you put it into your, blue chip single stocks, maybe some cryptocurrency that goes up in value. Maybe you buy some real estate like I did. Maybe you invest in some startups like I did, and your net worth will balloon very, very quickly. So that's the whole thing. That's how I went from, a guy working 9 to 5 to now I'm a millionaire. I think I hit millionaire status like at 26, maybe. I turned 29 in about a week or two. So if that would give you some perspective.
Wow, that was a great breakdown. I can't really add much to that. I just look at it thinking back to when I was 23, 24 years old. For me, it was always about adding additional income streams, and that hasn't changed. Getting those side hustles, getting those other buckets of income. But also, I am a voracious learner. I have to know everything if I can. So I think that's one of the key components for anyone listening is always try to learn more, build more skill sets to make yourself more valuable, because that is the key. The more valuable you are, the more money you can require for your time and your services. But then also always be looking to improve on your income through side hustles, other investments, and other businesses.
And imposter syndrome. I'm curious, Robert, I suffered from imposter syndrome and still do, in the sense that like, whoa, someone wants to pay me $100,000 for a project? Like, I don't deserve that much money. I'm not that smart. There's no way I'm worth that, right? Now, like once you do more and more projects and like, do more consulting gigs or you sell more services or like products or whatever it might turn into, you're like, oh, wait, maybe I do deserve this. Maybe I am pretty good at this stuff. Maybe I can build a business around this. And so like, I really suffered from imposter syndrome in the beginning, but Robert, I'm curious, like, do you have any piece of advice for Jasmine, who's maybe 24, she's got the side hustle figured out, and she's really trying to now go from, call it 0 to her first 10,000 a month in revenue for her business?
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome affects everyone at some point in their career. And it's just really all about understanding your own worth as a person and really trying to calculate that. What is your ROI that you believe should be for your time? Because your number one goal is to stop trading time for money as soon as possible in your career. I'm not saying quit your job, you have a great job, but I'm saying the more valuable you become, the higher your ROI is per hour. And the more that really kind of harkens against what you bring as value to other people. And once you understand how valuable you are to other people, then you can really understand your worth as a human for your services and what you are in your job. And I think that's the most important thing to learn as early as possible. You know, I had a big ego early on because I always figured I wasn't the smartest person in the building, but no one would outwork me. And so I think that's important to understand that for me, all day long, I want people that are tenacious and hard workers because that is something that I think is more valuable than talent. So make sure anyone listening understands that.